Okay, I think we are live. Looks like we are live.
Yes, we are.
So good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night, depending on where in the world you're dialing from. We are a truly international platform, so it could be from anywhere. And thank you for those of you that stayed up or got up or watched this in the early hours. It's lunchtime here in Cape Town, South Africa. And I am Jane Bullen, Managing Director of the Nutrition Network. And I'm joined today by somebody that's a really, really important part of our team at the Noakes Foundation. She is Yvette Zihalwa, Program, I hope I got that right today. Yes, Program Lead at Eat Better South Africa. Yvette, thank you so much for joining today. Welcome.
Thank you, Jane. I'm excited and I'm looking forward to have this conversation and hear what everybody have to say and kind of engage with the Nutrition Network members. Thank you.
So, thank you so much. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the work of Eat Better South Africa, I know this is, we're streaming on the Nutrition Network community page, Yvette, just so you know. So slightly different audience to what we're used to on the Eat Better South Africa side. So Eat Better South Africa, just to contextualize for everyone, is something very, very close to all of the board and my heart. It's something that we built over a number of years after exploring and experimenting our own wish to take this knowledge to other communities that hadn't been positively impacted by it in our country in South Africa. So it started with a pilot program in Ocean View in 2015, which is a small local community about an hour from Cape Town. And we said, okay, we're going to see what happens. And we don't have the means and haven't had access to, you know, the onset of the low carbohydrate movement and knowledge, which was very much triggered and spearheaded by Prof. Noakes and his community and the scientific community. We went there and we said, is this going to work? And about 50 women joined the program. And since then, it's gone from strength to strength because it did work as we knew that it would, and better than we could have imagined. So fast track from 2015 to September last year, so 10 months ago, we finally reached the point. It took all of those years of building and chipping away and looking for funding, where the Nutrition Network, thanks to all of you as being sponsors and funders of this incredible program through the course sales, with the Noakes Foundation being a majority shareholder of the Nutrition Network, we got to the point where Yvette could join and where we could start building a real team and start taking these programs to the next level. So Yvette, your joining was such an important and big part of the Eat Better South Africa movement and the way forward. Tell us about what you've been doing since September and the team that you've built so far and where we're at.
Okay, thanks, Jen. It's been an exciting journey, joining from the groundwork. We have been really busy integrating ourselves in the community. Since I've joined, we've got 4 new coaches on board who have been activated all across the countries, fully trained by the amazing teams of the Nutrition Network and empower them with the appropriate knowledge so they can go and empower their communities as well. We've also been doing a lot of collaborations with other community-based organizations because we do understand that a health journey, especially in our communities, with such a diverse group of people, I mean, in a normal South African community, if you work in there, you will find we've got 54 countries in Africa. If you go in any community in our country, you'll find at least 5 nationalities in one community. And that makes it very exciting because you get to know different cultures, different peoples, how they eat. Religion also comes into big play with what they're eating. So that's what we've been doing with EBSA. We've also joined a clinic. We have recently finished our first clinical pilot program of the EBSA 6 weeks program. And that's been such a learning curve for us as a team and as an organization as well. So that's what we've been up to. A lot of our one-day workshop, which are needed to go and educate, whether it's a business or an organization that's, you know, doing good in the community and they want to know what can they do in terms of nutrition, or if they're doing a soup kitchen, how can they feed the people of the community better or feed so that they can be better as well. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what we've been doing.
Sure, thanks, Yvette. So I'm going to come back to what you're doing in the Dunoon Clinic in a bit, but what you touched on here really is an interesting point to talk about a little bit more, which is that story of kind of the cultural diversity, whether it's linguistic or religious, that's quite unique to our country and to our communities. I mean, how do we include people, and how does that play out in terms of diet and the work that we're doing?
Okay. That's what got me, or I think that's what has been my superpower within the EPSA program, or that's what works in, because our program is so inclusive that wherever we go, we are able to accommodate every community members wherever we are. So if we go, let's say last year, and I spoke about this during the Nutrition Network World Summit, where we went to Masipumelele, which is a township in Hot Bay, and it's a very also again diverse community. So when we go in, we learn about the community, we get to know the people, because that's the only way we can accommodate and empower the communities, by learning how do they eat, what cultures is there in the community. So from then you will see people start opening up. So you have somebody who will say, I come from Eastern Cape, and in the Eastern Cape, this is what we normally eat. This is we've got umfino, which is a mixture of mealie meal and cabbage and your onions, and a mixture of everything. And we love that meal in the Eastern Cape, and everyone who comes from there will tell you in winter, that's the go-to meal. And then okay, so how do we then educate it? You have your home meal, so that you can enjoy it while retaining the nutrients. And then you have somebody who's from Zimbabwe, and they've got amazing these sweet potatoes in Zimbabwe that you can also find in Venda, and it's big in Johannesburg. And you're like, okay, so how do we educate you? And so that you can eat, when you're missing home, when you want to keep your family tradition within. And that's where EPSA is so important, because we can have a group of people, different diversity, different religion, and our educational material is built in a way that it accommodates those it's serving.
So let's talk a little bit about these traditional foods. It's such a fascinating area. I've got such a big thing about pap, and how everywhere I go, it seems that people believe that pap is the traditional food, and it's the sort of ancestral food, which of course we know it's not. So what are the typical sort of traditional foods that we see people eating and struggling to give up, that you're looking at and working with?
Okay, so to be honest, actually, we have our traditional food that's been, I want to say, ruined by the Western I want to say commercial diets, where we have ulusu, which is an animal intestines, right? We love it. It's, when you're craving home, you're missing, whether it's granny, or you most of us were raised by our granny, and when you're missing granny, or when you're missing home, you want a taste of home. And ulus is one of that particular meal that we go to. And we've been told that you can't eat it without your pap on the side, or you can't eat it without your steam bread on the side. So EPSA then will come in, and we're like, you know what, ulus, it's got everything you need, but what else can you have with it on the side that doesn't have to be such a high in the carbohydrate or packed with so much sugar? So we then say you can have it with your sweet potato, which is on the orange list. You eat it moderatively. You can have it with cabbage. And these are knowledge that's, because we've been told it's meant to be eaten with pap, with steam bread, and that's where EPSA comes in, and educate people to enjoy the traditional food that's accessible in their community.
And how are you finding getting people off these sort of the starch that we know is plonked on? I know there was a study that came out today, which I tweeted, that said that 41% of the average South African plate is starch. And then there's sort of, I must get the figures, I think it's about 20% protein and meat, and then a 17%, I think it was, vegetables. So obviously what we know is, with the work that you're doing and the work that we do at the Nutrition Network, is to kind of ideally invert that, or if possible, plop the starch, refined carbohydrate section off the plate. What are you doing, and how's it going? What sort of tactics do you have to take with local community people to get them to understand this better and to get them off the carbs, or at least reduce them? And are you managing? Is it working?
One thing I've learned so far, though, is that there's a big craving or thirst for knowledge, which is another element that makes our programs so successful. People are generally the ones to learn. When we go in and we say to someone, do you know how much sugar is in that particular meal? Or on a Sunday meal, on an average South African plate, we have our several aka 7 colors on a plate. And it's very hard because you're asking someone to almost change their tradition. You know, when we speak about 7 color, it's your mashed potato, it's your beans, it's your pap, it's your, several colors of foods. So then we come in and we prompt people, or we encourage positive eating habits. That's the one thing. You are affirming this person that, you know what, whether even if it's we have negative stigmas in communities, right? So if somebody's been told that if we see you coming from the shop and you've got your chicken heads and feet in your plastic, it means you're really struggling that month. That's a hard month for you or for the family. So people will often not buy things just because it's associated with negative stigmas. So we go in and we say to someone, we highlight the nutrient and the benefit of this particular meal, and to say to them, just because you're eating it, that does not mean you're struggling. It means you are health conscious, you know what you're eating, and you are mindful of it. So we go there and we educate people based on what they have within their community, what they have. We look at what does this community have access to. How is the economical factor of this community is, and that is how we are going. We are not going to say to people, no, don't eat it, this, don't eat A, don't eat B, don't eat B. No, what we go in, we look at what the community have and the resources it has, and then we encourage the eating habit around what the community has. And it seemed to be working, because people are coming back and they're saying, actually, I did not know that. I'm going to carry my chicken heads and feet now. I don't care who sees it, as long as I'm eating healthy. So that is something that's working.
So in your experience, what is the actual diet and health like on the ground in local communities in South Africa at the moment? I know we see a lot of data. We see all these startling statistics. What is it like on the ground there? What are you seeing typically in the clinics and in the work interventions that you're doing at the moment?
It's a typical diet. I will say it's almost non-existent. People are eating what they can find, or what being sold in the spaza shop, in their local spaza shops. So a big chunk of our community diet is made of what the spaza shop stocks, right? So if you're looking at the community, especially now in winter, where if it rains, it means you can't really travel afar, because sometimes the roads are flooded, or you can't go out because you don't have mode of transportations. So you rely heavily on what's being stocked in your local spaza shop, and that often include maize meal, highly processed and very, very cheap sausages, which is heavily processed with colorant and ingredients that you can't even pronounce. A person who is looking to read the sugar label or their food labels will not even begin to comprehend what some of the words are. So that's what I want to say flooding our community. It's very highly marketed, highly processed foods and cheap products. That's like the 2-minute noodles. I mean, we saw last week where ShopRite had made a marketing mistake and saying, go buy one is sold for 2 rand, but you can buy 3 for 9 rand. It was a big thing over social media, but then they come back and they correct and they say, no, you can buy 3 for 6 rand, not for 5 rand, something like that. It's it's highly marketed, and these are the wrong foods that floods the local community. It's highly marketed. It floods the local spaza shop, and it's often you find that because there's no knowledge, or there's no knowledge hub within the community, no one to say otherwise. That's what's being up the diet of the country for most communities.
I mean, that's 2 rand. I'm just trying to think of what that is in US dollars. That's 20 cents. 20 US dollar cents. So that's what, I mean, I heard recently that that's sort of taking over kids' food now because it's so easy to make these 2-minute noodles.
Yes.
Terrifying thought. So you've talked about spaza shops and the access. So is there fresh food? Where are people getting their fresh, healthy food from at the moment? Or are they even including it anymore in their diets?
It is actually quite included, because this is my favorite part. We've got one of our latest participants who's a street vendor. We have got our street vendors. And that is where I want to say another element that makes our program work, because when we go in the community, you have, let's say, 5 street vendors that are selling fresh produce, right? And then they all have their own prices. And they are the ones who provide, I want to say the only ones actually that provide fresh produce to the community, because your local spaza shop is not going to stock it, because chances are if it was not bought today and tomorrow, it's going to go off and they can't risk losing that money. So the community heavily rely on our street vendors, on our mamas on the side of the road selling their fresh produce, and that's the only, often in most community, those are the only fresh produce in the community. So often when I first joined EBSA, I went and look what's around the community, my community here. I went and look and see what are they selling for, what are the prices. And it was such an exciting journey, because you find the mamas, what they do is they pack a normal plastic bag and they fill it with 5 different veggies, and they sell that for like 20 rand. And that's got 1 cabbage, 5 carrots, 1 onions, 2 tomatoes. And then moms or families will buy that and try to last that for 3 days or for as long as they can. But fresh produce is highly scarce in the community, because there's no one who's outsourcing it besides the ladies on the streets.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that, because it feels like, relative to income, certainly in South Africa, where you live and determines the access that you have to good fresh produce. So we have great supermarkets in the area that I live, but I know that it's like so incredibly variable and different in the way that food storage and distribution is managed in local communities, and that's obviously a problem, isn't it, in terms of sort of long-term food stability and security for the most part of our country.
It is.
So what are children's, Yvette, I wanted to ask you a bit about, the work that you did before you joined us in the ECD sector, and then also to talk a bit about children's diets and what you think of them, what the current landscape is like. Tell us what you were up to before and the work that you did in ECD.
Okay. Before I joined EBSA, I was an ECD expert with an organization called Violence Prevention Through Urban Upgrading, as well as doing some work with mothers in trying to eradicate social isolations that mothers faced in our communities through my nonprofit, which is Tribune Connect as well. So often when you go into, we used to have what we called walkabouts, where we go in local communities and we assess how many ECDs are there. And you'll be surprised, Jen, there is quite a lot, from the daycare mothers to ladies that will just say to you, Sigada Bandwana, that is like, I'm just looking after kids. Like there's no element of structure up there. So often it comes as, okay, so she's got kids. She doesn't have a microwave in most cases. She doesn't have a fridge. So what she's going to feed the kids, and she want to do it in bulk. So of course, noodles will be and milli pop. So a child will walk in, mommy will drop her off in the morning. Even at my own ECD, I still see the same issue where mommy will drop the child in, because you want to get to the school at work at 7. So that means mommy has to drop the little one off between 6 and 7 and relies on the center to feed the child breakfast, next lunch, until the child is picked up again at 6 or 5. So it's millipap in the morning with sugar or butter, all things with little nutrient benefits. And then snacks time, you find that in our community, there's these little chips that highly knickknacks. And there's little ones that they go for like R1.50 that mommy can afford. And those are the snacks for kids. And they have some juice or fizzy drinks because, again, it's what they have access to or what the ECD can afford. And then at lunch, we do have some other amazing organization that's doing some work, or in cases where there isn't, kids will have, again, another big portion of pap, maybe with a little bit of chicken gravy on top and maybe one piece of chicken on the side. But again, the majority of the meal, it's really with none or very little nutrient value to it. And then it's snack time. It's sometimes there's sweets. There's like chip biscuits. There's sweet, actual sweet lollipop. And then ECD ladies, they are trying, because you will see that we want to say we fed kids something healthy. So a bowl will be bought out. They will cut bananas and put and apples into a bowl, and then every child can pick one, and then that's how we go until mommy picks them up again. So when you look at the nutrient value of what the child is eaten in a day, it's very little, and as they grow, it's very little that they are getting that give them chance to actually grow up and develop at the rates that they are supposed to. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's basically it.
I mean, this is the thing, you know, what you've just described is just highly refined carbohydrates from morning until whenever mom fetches. And then what we know is that supper may not necessarily be better. So it just highlights the importance of certainly the work that we all do and the work that Eat Better South Africa does, and that it has to start to move into childhood, you know, nutrition. It's obvious. So obviously that's something that we're looking at, but for now we're working with adults. And you've got a very, very interesting program which you touched on earlier, which is with adult newly diagnosed type 2 diabetics. Is that correct? In the Dunoon Clinic. So tell us a bit about what's happening there and what the patients are like and what the work is.
Okay. So Dunoon, I'm going to go back to the community itself, is just to give those who are out of the country a little bit, or those who have never been to it, a little bit of background. It is one of the most poverty-stricken area within the Western Cape. There's so many barriers already. So by the time an individual gets to the clinic, you better bet that that was the last resort. So until things get worse, because people, there's no easy way to get to the clinic. In cold weather, you're gonna walk to the clinic, or doesn't matter how you get there. So by the time they get to us, it's either they've experienced some sort of fatigue, or, you know, there's no hope at all. Let's start there. When you meet someone, you're like, there I am coming, Chipa and AP. Hi, I'm Yvette. I'm from Eat Better South Africa. We are in the club room at the clinic. Join us. It's just like, oh, she looks too happy for me. I can't handle that energy. Oh, so we have to find a way to kind of approach people. The patient starts, but the minute they get into, once they start listening, you find that it's almost as if, from my own personal experience, you see that there's almost a burden being lifted off somebody's shoulder, where it's a community where there's so many diseases, or there are those who are living with diabetes, which why we're saying newly diagnosed diabetes, but it's because often you find if they have been diagnosed or they come to the clinic for their TB treatment, they're not going to bother about their blood glucose or anything else. Your goal is just to get through your treatment and try to be better. Or those who are HIV positive as well, again, you're not very concerned about your diabetes, even though it's the one thing that will most likely kill you before your status gets to you. So when we come in then, and what we find that we're being referred, those patients are being referred to us because this is part of nutrition, is a big part of everyone's journey, whether you're recovering from TB or you are living with HIV. What you eat, because of the medication you take, you need good nutrition that will better support your immune system. So the community is made up of very diverse people. They are very friendly. And so when they come to us, but also because I've worked in this particular community for a number of years, it's like, yes, what are you doing? What can I do? I want to learn. And it's more like the light is being shone all of a sudden. I did not know. I find that when I'm taking my ARVs, I can't eat. There's nothing I can stomach because, pap and something, my stomach cannot handle the heaviness of the pap. So, but now you're telling me I can live better, just because I'm living better, I'm eating better. So it's more, a light is being shown. Our program is very well received by both doctors and the patients themselves. And they look forward to the Tuesdays that we are there to learn more. And it's become another aspect of the EPSA program is the community and the safe space that it provides within the community, where you feel comfortable enough to share the most thing you're struggling with, because you will get the right advice in terms of even something as simple as I'm struggling to find fresh veggies because I live, our communities is divided in section. I live in section 28 and the veggie ladies, the only ones I know are in section 15, and that's such a long walk for me. So I often opt for no veggies at all. But then someone in the group will say, oh, I live in section 18 too, in 28 as well. But guess what? There's a new lady behind this particular church that also selling fresh produce. Go try her, she's closer to you. So that as well. And somebody will say, actually, ShopRite's down the line, when it's sunny, go for a walk. They have some special on the veggies. So it's that information sharing and the spaces that we provide that's making the program so successful in being received so well within the community itself in a clinical settings.
That's so beautiful to share, just how you've talked about how it's like shining a light on something. And I know that's certainly been my experience of the communities that I've been lucky enough to visit and participate in. It's felt so like simple and incredibly profound for people. So you also touched on, the importance of the community story. And I think that's really important to kind of go into a little bit more about, because obviously traditionally and in a much more clinical environment, it's like, okay, you're a diabetic, here's the food, here's the diet, boom, off you go. And then there's this kind of come back in a couple of months' time and we'll check your blood sugars and hopefully you'll keep it under control and inevitably get more medication. And, as we know, things deteriorate. So what is the role of coaching and community support in this way within a group that makes it, contributes towards the success of these programs?
I will say the role that it plays, one thing that I love most, which I think it's also kind of a leap into my previous work, is the belonging spaces. The minute you decided, okay, EPSA, I've heard what you're teaching, I want to give you a chance, educate me. So the first thing is you join a WhatsApp group, and then you're like, oh my gosh, so there's a community that I will belong to, belonging in this group. So they will join the group and they're like, things that are being shared. It's not even often the conversation is being driven by the participants themselves, sharing information, asking questions, and then we're answering and we're educating them. And then, already you've been isolated in your wellness journey, and then you've been provided this community that you can belong to. Ask questions without judgment. You are able to be provided with the information that you need. So that's the one element. Another one is, this is where our community coach comes in and how important their work is. They become a source of a knowledge hub for the community. And that it's like almost you want to see a physical manifestation of the goals you're working towards. And that's what the community coach represents in the community. She's a community coach, is accessible, able to, if they don't know the information or the support this person needs, they're able to refer you to a resource center, or able to access the information they need so they can empower you. And that's why, I think that's what makes our program, the sustainability of our program, really well. Somebody else is going to be inspired by this community coaching. They're going to see the good they're doing. They're going to like, okay, I want to do what you do for my section. And together with the WhatsApp group and the physical knowledge hub within the community, which is the community coach, together the program is set well. It's got legs in the community. It's doing what it's meant to do.
Mm. That's a really important thing you talk about, is that role of the coach, which is, of course, something we've learned, I guess, over the years. We started off with these programs. We used to go in for 6 weeks and it was like, right, here we are, bang. It was like we'd hit the group with this absolutely incredible information and they would transform, and then we would leave. And of course, we realized quite quickly in on the journey that we had to have somebody there. So we sort of piloted a couple of things. And obviously, Sylvia was our first long-term community coach that we actually employed. And she's been sitting with Ocean View for a number of years now. And because of it, we've seen the community change. So since you've joined, we've hired another 4 community coaches. Is that correct? So we've expanded quite quickly. Talk to us about these guys and what kind of backgrounds. They're obviously from quite different places. And bring different strengths to their communities.
Yes, they do. I want to go back to Sylvia just a little bit, because we were in Atlantis and Ocean View over the weekend. Like you said, she's a long-term community coach. But what we're finding out is that we are creating generational sustainability. Ladies who have been in her program, they're raising their kids with the right knowledges. And then we already see the potential who's going to be like Sylvia's become like a landmark within her community, that important knowledge hub. If you don't know, if you want to go to a doctor that is a carb friendly within a community, she will know there's one within Atlantis community that she can say, go to doctor A, B, and C in this section. And then you go, then that becomes your family doctor, and it's knowledge spreading. And then we have our 4 new ones. And they're also amazing. We have Jeannie, who is in our Gauteng in Boksburg community near Tembisa. She is doing the most amazing thing. Last week, if you've been following our EPSA page, we highlighted a Gogo who her granddaughter has just graduated. But as we all know, in our tradition, graduation is a big thing for any culture. The celebration includes big mealie pap, potato salad, everything. But this granny, because she has been, yes, a lot of carbs, yes, and sweets and soft drinks and fizzy drinks and cakes. But now Gogo has had the opportunity to hear and be part of Jeannie's group. So she immediately, when she knew there was going to be a celebration within the family, okay, she relied and leaned on her EPSA community. I want to make this a healthy celebration. What can I do? Where can I outsource the healthiest, but within my very limited budget? So they all came together. And then at the end of the day, there was a beautiful health conscious meal all around. The family had fun, the community had fun. And that's just how we are spreading the education and empowering people. And now the granddaughter's gonna go knowing you can have a healthy gathering with all nutritious, conscious food. And then we have Lynn, who was a teacher for so many years in Somerset West, again, also doing amazing work. And she's been doing a lot of our one-day presentation with the community and family and friends. And it's been an eye-opening. And of course, there's many struggles as much as there is, but because people know better now, they strive for better. And that is how I think eventually we're going to be changing the diet staple of, and that's how we're going to influence our policies. Because somebody shared a story, I think it was in Atlantis now, with our Ladies' Day. We know SAS give people food parcels, right? And often, because they know better now, the ladies are like, this is not healthy parcels. Why is SASA not give? SASA is our local government support for the elderly and for communities that are economically challenged. So when SASA give you these parcels of 5 kgs of sugar, 10 kgs of mealie meal and rice, and then that's the food relief. So but now, because they know better now, you will hear people saying, can we not approach our community, our ward councillor, and ask them to put something healthy or to go for healthier options for these food parcels? Yes.
That's great news. Actually going up from the grassroots and saying, we want something better. Like this isn't enough. We need better food. That's really, really amazing. Okay, so we've got 4 coaches that are actually, I love what you said here, they're creating generational sustainability. And that's exactly it. It's a long process. And what we've got to be doing is focusing on the next generation and start to go, we hope that our children don't have to go through this and fight the fought that we've fought. Fight the fight that we fought. It's really huge. Okay, so shining a light. I love that. And creating generational sustainability. So those of you that are joining and listening, I'm guessing quite a few of you have done our either advisor or our Eat Better group coaching program. Let's talk a little bit about that. And so the Nutrition Network, when was it? Earlier this year, I think in February, we launched group coaching. And that was our first kind of collaborative training that we've run with Eat Better South Africa. It's a sort of bumper. We did it because so many of our coaches want to start considering group coaching, and also because it's such incredible knowledge that we've built over the years through Eat Better South Africa in terms of the formula that we know works as kind of a golden standard 6-week intervention. With groups that we've built and kind of tweaked and refined and tested and had independently tested once by people visiting from Groningen University in the Netherlands. Then we had Georgina, who is our PhD candidate and our fellow that's now then did it as an actual ethics approved study. So we've definitely put this program through the tests, and it is sustainable and it works. Okay, so we've built this training, which we also did it because to fund Eat Better South Africa. Eat Better South Africa is beneficiary of the Noakes Foundation, and Noakes Foundation owns the majority of the shares in the Nutrition Network. We added an extra 25% of all sales from this training goes straight to Eat Better South Africa. So it's a really, really good way, if you're interested and if you're an advisor, to convert your knowledge and support the organization. What is on the training? And, do you think we've talked about how all of our coaches have obviously done that training. What value can it bring to other communities? Because of course we've got people that are dialing in from all over the world, not necessarily from South Africa. And the big question is, do we apply this, and can we apply this internationally?
Jen, I want to say absolutely, actually. I always say, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but you can completely, if something can work with our diverse community, it can work anywhere else in the world. That's the beauty of it. It is very inclusive. It's in a way that it's built to accommodate everyone. Does not matter where you come from or the quality of life you're leading. This training and our program model is based on human. I want to say that on everyday living people. It's educational. If you want education, it's there. And this could, I particularly enjoyed Amanda's sessions lecture, where she touched about the quality of a facilitator, the things you will need. I mean, those are basic, I want to say, knowledge that one needs if you want to have a successful group. This training is so important because it takes you from the beginning, where it tells you the quality you need. And if you don't have those qualities and you really want to be a group coach, how to develop those qualities. And then it takes you from the moment you decide the demographic that you want to. If you want working moms like myself, how to accommodate them. If you want working dads, if you want the elderlies in your community, if you want just general everyone in your group, it touches on the specifics and tell you how helps you to navigate these things. And then we get to Yana's presentations, which we in our community coaches WhatsApp group, it was such a buzz because it gives you the whole script on how to present our sugar demo. The Nutrition Network did develop a sugar demonstration, which actually looks at the amount of sugar that an average person consumes in a day. And it's such a shocking discovery for someone who's listening to it for the first time. It certainly was for me. So she takes you through that steps by steps and how to present it. And you're like, oh my word, okay, I can do this. And she does it with such an easy, because that's how it is. You are having a conversation with your group and you allow for questions to come in as you do the presentation. And I think that's important. If you're going to have this resource that will guide you almost to a point where you feel like you've got a best friend in your pocket. If you don't know, you can quickly say, I'm sorry, I don't know that, but tomorrow I'm going to go home. I will go back to the lecture and come back with an answer. Yes, the next day. So it's very reliable, easy, accessible, and we enjoyed it. As a group, because we did it together with the coaches and our administrator. Yes, so it was kind of a journey that we shared, and I think that could be a community thing. If, let's say, even for organization or businesses that want to implement health consciousness within their teams, like we have our creation wines, where we're going to be having our fundraiser. They are very health conscious and very invested in the wellness of their team. This is something that you can select a person within the organization, within the team, have them do this training, and then they will have this knowledge so they can continue and motivate others within the team to eat better, so that they can live better. Because ultimately, if I'm eating well and I'm well, I'm bound to do well at work as well, and in life in general.
So, you know what I love is all the number of times you've said team and community in the last 5 minutes. It's just music to my ears. And it really touches on the heart of this, particularly the model that Eat Better South Africa is built around. You know, it feels like we're moving away from a single patient going to a medical professional, having like deep forensic testing done, and then being sent away with medication, towards something where there's community learning, and where we learn from each other, where we keep growing, where we keep getting better. And I'm hoping, and my belief is that that is the solution. You know, this is the way that the future of healthcare, it's not so much medication, it's not so much a medical intervention, it's really actually the common knowledge, you know, of how to eat and do better. So what else should we be doing? What can we be doing, A, to support Eat Better South Africa and its incredible work, and B, in local communities? You know, how can we take this knowledge, other than obviously doing the actual training, which is quite a rigorous training and comprehensive, ways to start getting better? What do you recommend for people that are listening? Small things.
Small things, yes, small things. It's like as a non-profit, of course, we rely on your generosity to operate and do as much positive impact as we can. So small steps will be to, like, we have fundraisers, we have means of raising funds, and wherever you are, if, let's say, you feel there's a need for a community coach, or if we come to you and we say we have identified a community and we would very much love to have a community coach within that community, the easiest way is to, when we are collectively contributing, to have a community coach in that community. That's the easiest way people could get be part of. And another thing is, if you do the Nutrition Network courses, and like this EPSA training and the advisor training, you are getting education, and you're getting something for it, but you are supporting our EPSA work as well, because a percentage of your course fee comes into supporting us at the EPSA and the work we're doing. And that's, I think, the easiest way one could get involved and really make a positive impact. I just also want to say another one is, if you want to sponsor a coach, if you want to be part of the journey, because you get to be part of this, not just us, not just the coach, you get to be part of the community's lives on the grassroots level. So if you say you come to us and you want to get involved, you say, Yvette, I want to sponsor a community coach. Let's identify a community, let's put a coach there, and I want to personally sponsor this coach. That's another way somebody can support the work that we're doing.
Amazing. And also, obviously, if you've done the training, or you intend to do the training, you can be a community coach. Doesn't have to be necessarily on the Eat Better South Africa payroll, but maybe joining and connecting with the group of coaches that we have. I'm almost seeing like a global net of incredible community coaches all around the world that understand this work and take it to local communities anywhere. Don't feel like you have to be in South Africa to do this work, and to go to your local church or your local school or wherever it is and start just sharing this knowledge. I think that's the important thing as well, is this has been a journey of trial and error. And we've definitely tested and found the best way forward that we think and know now for sure that works for the treatments of NCDs and diabetes in particular, as well as hypertension. But please experiment, and please try out things in your local communities wherever you are. You know, we've got to keep going. We've got to be bold, creative, and keep flying the flag, I think. Especially all of you that are listening, because I'm saying this knowing that we're talking to the Nutrition Network audience, which is a very knowledgeable and pioneering community. The fact that you're here and on this platform and engaging in this content. Okay, Yvette, what else? Any last thoughts on how we can do better, how we can eat better, and how we can mutually change the world of healthcare?
It starts with you. It starts at home. We always, if you've been following us again on EBSA page, you'll see we've got our hashtags that, you know, community health start with you. We try to say we're not what's the word? We are not saying we're going to shove down the knowledge. You must have to do this. We understand that we're humans. We're going to fall, but we're going to rise. But your community, if you find your tribe, your people, like, you know, go to that. Rely on them. There's a saying, or I think it's a meme that says, don't let us laugh with you, and then when you cry on your own. Allow us to cry with you as much as we laugh with you. And I think that's a very important thing, and something that I'm seeing in the EBSA groups, you know, where we are encouraging, you know, we are letting, you know, this is a safe space, and we are monitoring it and catering it in a way that's saying, you are here, we are here with you. And that's the easiest way, because we know when you're eating better, you're going to be inspiring someone else to eat better. And that's a big thing to do for your community.
Beautiful. So true. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today. For those of you listening, please engage. Please feel free to our books. My doors are open. Yvette, I'm sure your doors are open to
Yes.
bring in conversations across the network. There's so much work to be done here in terms of working as a team, collaborating and doing better together. So please, let's keep the conversation alive. Thank you so much for your time today, Yvette.
Thank you so much. Yeah, if I could just say one last thing also is we have got another way, you know, we've got our fundraisers coming up in October in Beautiful Creation Wines. Another way you can sponsor us and get to hear Prof talk in person, and we've got like an amazing panel of speakers. Like, go on Quickest, there's information being put in the section, in the comment section. Buy your tickets and come and connect with us, you know, engage with us. And this is another opportunity that we give in terms of accessibility to our team, in our, you know, in us as an organization. Come and join us at Creation Wine. Let's have a great evening together.
Beautiful. Thank you. So that's in Hermanus in the Overstrand in South Africa, for those of you that are listening. So a large part of you won't be able to join us, or you could. Why not come to the Western Cape for a little spring holiday? If you can't, there's a lot of other beautiful ways that you can share, contribute, support, donate. I'm going to ask the team to drop a link to the donations page for Eat Better South Africa, or you can do the training, the Eat Better training. And that, as I said, 25% of the income goes immediately straight to Eat Better South Africa, and there's additional revenue that filters its way through there later on. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us, and look forward to